I stood in the hospital corridor, still wearing my bridesmaid dress from my sister's wedding yesterday, staring at the diagnosis paperwork in my hands. Stage 3, leukemia. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. And Marcus? My fiancé of 3 years had just sent me a text 5 minutes ago. I can't do this. I'm sorry. You need someone stronger than me. Can you imagine? Getting a cancer diagnosis and being dumped via text on the same day? My phone buzzed again. Another text from Marcus. I've already moved my stuff out. I think it's better this way. Better? Better for who? I slumped against the wall, the cold hospital paint pressing through the thin fabric of my dress. Around me, life continued. Nurses rushed past, families embraced, children laughed, and here I was, utterly alone, holding a death sentence in one hand and a breakup text in the other. Miss Chen? A deep voice pulled me from my spiral. I looked up to find Dr. Alexander Hunt standing in front of me. Not just any doctor, the hospital's CEO. I'd seen him exactly once before, at a charity gala where I'd volunteered last year. He'd given a speech about patient care that had actually made me cry. But what was he doing on the oncology floor, and why did he know my name? Emma Chen, right? He said, his gray eyes studying my face with an intensity that made me self-conscious. I need to talk to you. Privately. I followed him numbly to a small consultation room. He closed the door and gestured for me to sit, but he remained standing, his jaw tight like he was working up the courage to say something difficult. I got your test results flagged to my office, he began. Emma, I'm a perfect bone marrow match for you. The room tilted. What? How? I just found out an hour ago that I need a transplant. The registry search hasn't even started. I was already in the registry. When your oncologist ran your HLA typing, it pinged my profile. The computer flagged it as a 10 out of 10 match. He paused, running a hand through his dark hair. Emma, that's extraordinarily rare, especially between non-relatives. I don't understand. You're offering to be my donor? Yes, absolutely, without question. His voice was firm, leaving no room for doubt. But there's something else. Oh God, what else could there possibly be? He pulled out his phone and showed me a photo. It was from the charity gala me, in that ridiculous penguin costume for the kids' activities, laughing as I helped a little boy paint his face. I barely remembered it being taken. I've had this photo for 14 months, Alexander said quietly. I took it myself. That night, I watched you spend 4 hours entertaining sick children, comforting their parents, and cleaning up vomit with a smile on your face. You weren't there for recognition. You didn't even put your name on the volunteer list. You just showed up because you cared. My throat tightened. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to understand that what I'm about to propose isn't just about the transplant. He sat down across from me, and for the first time, I noticed his hands were shaking. Emma, your insurance through your accounting firm won't cover even half of what you need. The transplant, the hospital stay, the medications, the monitoring. We're talking about $300,000 minimum. The number hit me like a physical blow. I don't have that kind of money. I know. I pulled your file. At my shocked expression, he added quickly, I'm the CEO. I have access. And before you think I'm some creepy stalker, I've been following your case since I saw your name come through the system this morning. Emma, there's a way to fix this. What way? Marry me. The words hung in the air between us. I actually laughed a short, hysterical sound. Excuse me? If you're my spouse, you'll be on my insurance. Premium coverage, 0 copays, access to the best specialists in the country. I can make sure you get every treatment you need. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. And I'm already your perfect match. We'd be fast-tracked for the surgery. You're insane. We don't even know each other. You're right, we don't. But I know enough. He pulled out a folder. He'd actually prepared a folder and slid it across to me. This is a prenuptial agreement. It states clearly that this is a medical arrangement. You owe me nothing beyond platonic companionship. After you're in remission, and you will be, Emma, the survival rate with a perfect match is over 90%. We can quietly divorce. You walk away with no obligations. I stared at the papers, my brain refusing to process this. Why would you do this? You don't know me. Because I watched you make a dying child laugh for 20 minutes straight, Emma. Because when his mother broke down crying, you held her until she could breathe again. Because you cleaned up after everyone else left and still thanked the coordinator for letting you volunteer. His voice dropped. Because I've spent 14 months trying to convince myself I was being irrational, that you couldn't possibly be as genuine as you seemed that night. And then your name came across my desk today, and I realized the universe was giving me a chance to find out. This is crazy. Yes, he agreed. Completely crazy. But so is dying because some accounting firm has garbage insurance and your fiancé is apparently a coward. The mention of Marcus made me flinch, Alexander noticed. He left you today, didn't he? He asked gently. Text message, said he already moved his stuff out. I hated how my voice cracked. Alexander's expression darkened. Then he's an idiot. Emma, I'm not asking you to love me. I'm not even asking you to like me. I'm asking you to let me help you live. Everything else will figure it out. People don't just marry strangers. Sure they do. It's called arranged marriage, and it's worked for thousands of years. A slight smile tugged at his lips. At least we're arranging it ourselves. That's gotta count for something. I looked down at the diagnosis paperwork still clutched in my hand. Stage 3. Aggressive. Without treatment, 12 to 18 months. With treatment but no transplant, maybe 3 to 5 years. With a perfect match transplant? A real chance. If I say yes, I said slowly, what happens? We go to City Hall tomorrow, get the marriage license, have a civil ceremony. I'll add you to my insurance immediately. It takes effect within 24 hours for spousal additions. We start your treatment protocol next week. The transplant can happen within a month once we've got you stabilized. Where would I live? I have a house in Brookhaven, 4 bedrooms. You'd have your own space. I'm at the hospital 70 hours a week anyway, so you'd barely see me. He paused. Unless you wanted to. See me, I mean. There was something vulnerable in the way he said it, something that made me look at him, really look at him for the first time. He was probably 40, with premature gray at his temples that somehow made him more attractive, tired eyes that had probably seen too much death, strong hands that trembled slightly when he thought I wasn't watching. I need to think about this. Of course. But Emma? He stood, pulling out a business card and writing on the back. That's my personal cell. Call me anytime, day or night. And for what it's worth, I already called your oncologist. Told him to put a rush on your HLA typing confirmation and to prepare for a transplant consultation. Even if you say no to the marriage, I'm still your donor. That doesn't change. He left me sitting there with a folder full of legal documents and a business card that somehow felt heavier than it should. I called my mom first. That was my mistake. Absolutely not, she shrieked into the phone. Emma, you can't marry a stranger. What if he's some kind of predator? What if he wants to steal your organs? Mom, he's offering me his organs. That's kind of the opposite. Don't be smart with me. This is serious. You need to come home. We'll figure something out. Maybe we can do a fundraiser. Or, Mom, you and Dad are still paying off Sarah's wedding. You don't have $300,000. Silence. Then quieter. We'll find a way. But we wouldn't. I knew we wouldn't. My parents were good people, but they weren't wealthy people. Dad was a retired postal worker. Mom taught elementary school. They'd already refinanced their house twice. I called my sister Sarah next. She was still on her honeymoon. Emma. Oh my God, how are you? I saw Marcus posted something weird on Facebook about life changes and necessary decisions. What's that about? He left me. Today. Via text. What? That piece of weight. Why today? What happened? I told her. All of it. The diagnosis, Marcus's texts, Alexander's proposal. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then, do you trust him? This doctor? I don't know him well enough to trust him. But do you trust your gut about him? I thought about Alexander's shaking hands. The way he'd kept that photo for 14 months. How he'd promised to be my donor even if I refused the marriage. Yeah, I said slowly. I think I do. Then marry him. Emma, if this guy is offering you a chance to live, take it. Everything else is just details. Sarah, it's insane. So what? You volunteered in a penguin costume. You're already insane. At least this way, you'll be alive insane instead of dead insane. My sister had always had a way with words. I stared at Alexander's business card for 3 hours. Finally, at 11 p.m., I texted him, "Okay, let's do it." He responded in under 30 seconds. "Thank you. I'll pick you up at 8 a.m. We'll need to get the license first, then the ceremony. Bring your birth certificate and driver's license." You had this all planned out. Emma, I've been planning this since I saw your name this morning. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. I didn't sleep. How could I? Instead, I lay in my tiny apartment, Marcus's absence obvious in the empty closet and the gaps on the bookshelf, and tried to convince myself I wasn't making the biggest mistake of my life. At 7:45 a.m., my phone rang. "Alexander, I'm downstairs. No rush. Whenever you're ready." I looked at myself in the mirror. Jeans. A simple blue blouse. Sneakers. This was what I was wearing to my wedding? My second wedding attempt in as many days? Screw it. This wasn't a fairy tale. This was survival. I grabbed my documents and headed down. Alexander was leaning against a sleek black Mercedes, wearing dark jeans and a gray sweater that made his eyes look like storm clouds. He straightened when he saw me, and something flickered across his face. Relief? Nervousness? Before he schooled his features into a calm smile. "Morning," he said. "You look nice." "I look like I'm going to the DMV." "Well, City Hall is basically the DMV for relationships, so you're dressed perfectly." He opened the car door for me. "Ready?" "No. But let's go anyway." The drive to City Hall took 20 minutes. Alexander didn't try to make small talk, which I appreciated. Instead, he put on classical music, something soft and instrumental that didn't demand conversation. "You like Yo-Yo Ma?" he asked after a few minutes. "I don't know who that is." "The cellist. This is him playing Bach." "Oh! It's pretty." "Emma, you don't have to pretend to like classical music to make this work." I glanced at him. "What should I pretend to like?" "Nothing." "That's kind of the point." He changed lanes smoothly. "We're going to be living together. We might as well be honest about who we are." "Okay. Honestly?" I listen to Taylor Swift on repeat. When I'm sad, I watch trashy reality TV, and I eat cereal for dinner at least 4 times a week. A slow smile spread across his face. "Honestly? I play video games until 3 a.m. when I can't sleep. I've watched every episode of The Great British Baking Show twice, and I once ate an entire pizza for breakfast." "What kind of pizza?" "Hawaiian." I made a face. Pineapple on pizza is a crime against humanity. "Well, guess we're getting divorced before we even get married." We were both laughing when we pulled into the City Hall parking lot. It felt strange, good strange, to laugh about something so absurd. The marriage license process was surprisingly straightforward. We filled out forms. We showed our IDs. We paid $75. The clerk, a bored-looking woman named Patricia, barely glanced at us. "Ceremony today?" she asked. Alexander looked at me. I nodded. "Room 3B. Judge Morrison." Next. Just like that, we were shuffling down a fluorescent-lit hallway toward room 3B, where a tired judge in a cardigan was finishing up another ceremony. "Congratulations," Judge Morrison said flatly to the couple in front of us, a young pair who couldn't have been more than 20, covered in tattoos and grinning like idiots. They kissed passionately and practically skipped out of the room. Then it was our turn. Judge Morrison looked us up and down. "You two look like you're attending a funeral, not a wedding." "It's complicated," Alexander said. "Isn't it always?" She sighed and opened her book. "Names? Alexander James Hunt. Emma Grace Chen. Witnesses?" We looked at each other. In the chaos of everything, we'd forgotten about witnesses. "We don't have any," I admitted. Judge Morrison rolled her eyes and stuck her head out the door. "Hey, Patricia, need you as a witness," and grab someone else. Patricia shuffled in, followed by a janitor who looked utterly confused. "You're witnesses now," Judge Morrison informed them. "Congratulations. Now, let's make this quick. I've got 17 more ceremonies today." She launched into the shortest wedding ceremony I'd ever heard. No personal vows, no readings, just the legal bare minimum. "Do you, Alexander James Hunt, take Emma Grace Chen to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Alexander turned to face me fully. His eyes met mine, and I saw something there: determination, maybe, or hope. "I do," he said firmly. "Do you, Emma Grace Chen, take Alexander James Hunt to be your lawfully wedded husband?" This was it, the moment. I could still back out, run away, face cancer alone with my inadequate insurance and my absent fiancé and my depleted savings. Or I could take a chance on a stranger who'd kept my photo for 14 months. I do, I whispered. Rings? We shook our heads. Judge Morrison sighed again. Of course not. Fine. By the power vested in me by the state of Georgia, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride, or not. Your choice. Alexander looked at me, a question in his eyes. Seems like we should, I said. For authenticity. For authenticity. He agreed. He stepped closer, and I could smell his cologne, something clean and woodsy. His hand came up to cup my cheek, gentle and warm. Then he leaned in and pressed his lips to mine. It was supposed to be perfunctory, a legal necessity, a checkbox on the marriage contract. But it wasn't. His lips were soft and careful, moving against mine with a tenderness that made my breath catch. For just a second, his hand tightened on my cheek, and I found myself leaning into him, my fingers clutching the front of his sweater. When we pulled apart, Patricia was smirking. The janitor looked uncomfortable. Judge Morrison was already pulling out the next couple's file. Congratulations, she said without looking up. Next, we stumbled out of room 3B in a daze. Patricia handed us our marriage certificate at the front desk. Good luck, she said, and for the first time, she sounded sincere. You're gonna need it. In the parking lot, Alexander turned to me. So, Mrs. Hunt, that's going to take some getting used to. We don't have to use it. You can keep your name. This is all just paperwork anyway. But was it? That kiss hadn't felt like paperwork. What now? I asked. Now we get you added to my insurance. Start your treatment plan. And he checked his watch. And we probably should tell people. Unless you want to keep this quiet? My mom's going to lose her mind. Want me to talk to her? You want to face my angry Chinese mother? Voluntarily? He grinned. I've faced hospital boards and malpractice lawyers. How scary can one mom be? So naive. We drove to my parents' house in Marietta. My mom opened the door, took one look at the marriage certificate in my hand, and started yelling in Mandarin. I didn't catch all of it. My Mandarin is embarrassingly bad, but I definitely heard stupid girl and what were you thinking and something about dishonor. Alexander just stood there calmly, waiting for her to run out of steam. When she finally switched back to English, he said, Mrs. Chen, may I speak? She glared at him. Who are you? Alexander Hunt. I'm Emma's husband as of about 45 minutes ago. I'm also a doctor, the CEO of Emory Hospital, and the bone marrow donor who's going to save your daughter's life. I'd like to come inside and explain everything, if that's okay with you. My mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Finally, she stepped aside. My dad was in the living room, reading the newspaper. He looked up as we entered, took in my mother's expression and Alexander's presence, and said calmly, Well, this should be interesting. We sat, Alexander explained. Everything. The diagnosis, the match, the insurance situation, the marriage arrangement, the prenup, the treatment plan. My parents listened in silence. When he finished, my dad spoke first. Son, are you telling me you married my daughter purely to save her life? Yes, sir. And you expect nothing in return? Except the chance to get to know her. If she's willing. My dad studied him for a long moment. Then he turned to me. Emma? How do you feel about this? Terrified, I admitted. But also, hopeful? Alexander's giving me a chance I wouldn't have otherwise. And I know it sounds crazy, but I trust him. Why? My mom demanded. You don't know him. Because he had every reason to just be my anonymous donor and move on with his life. Instead, he's risking his reputation, his time, and his money to help me. That's not nothing, Mom. My parents exchanged a look, one of those wordless marital communications that comes from 35 years together. Finally, my mom sighed. Fine. But if he hurts you, I'm using my old nursing skills to make it look like an accident. Alexander's eyes widened slightly. You're a nurse? Retired ICU nurse. 20 years. I know exactly where to cut. Noted, Mrs. Chen. I'll keep that in mind. My dad stood and extended his hand. Welcome to the family, son, such as it is. They shook hands, and just like that, it was done. I had a husband. My parents had a son-in-law they'd met for the first time, married to their daughter. Are you going to tell Sarah? My mom asked. She already knows. She told me to do it. Of course she did. My mom shook her head. That girl has always been too impulsive, says the woman who eloped with Dad after knowing him for 3 months. That was different. How? We were in love. The words hung there, awkward and heavy. Because Alexander and I weren't in love. We barely knew each other. This was a business arrangement. A medical necessity. Nothing more. Right? We left my parents' house around noon. Alexander suggested lunch, but I wasn't hungry. Instead, I asked him to take me to my apartment so I could pack. Pack? He asked. You said I'd be living with you, right? Might as well get it over with. Emma, you don't have to move in today. We can. Alexander. Marcus took all his stuff. I'm staring at a half-empty apartment that reminds me of everything I lost. I'd rather be somewhere new. I looked at him. Unless you've changed your mind? No. God, no. I just don't want you to feel rushed. I'm dying of cancer. Everything feels rushed. He flinched at that, and I immediately felt guilty. Sorry, I said. That was harsh. It was honest. Don't apologize for honesty. He pulled into my apartment complex. Let's get your things. It took 3 trips to load my life into Alexander's Mercedes. Clothes. Books. My grandmother's quilt. The ceramic elephant collection I'd started in college. A box of photos I couldn't bear to look at but couldn't throw away. Marcus had left a note on the kitchen counter. I picked it up, scanned it quickly, and crumpled it without reading past the first line. Emma, you have to understand. Want to talk about it? Alexander asked quietly. No. I want to set it on fire. I have a fireplace at the house. We can burn it there if you want. Really? Therapeutic destruction is underrated. So that's how I spent my wedding day. Burning my ex-fiancé's goodbye letter in my new husband's fireplace while eating takeout Chinese food and watching him fail spectacularly at using chopsticks. How are you Chinese and this bad at chopsticks? I asked, laughing as he dropped another piece of Kung Pao chicken. I'm Korean, actually, and I grew up in Nebraska. My parents were very assimilated. He gave up and grabbed a fork. I'm a disgrace to my heritage. Nebraska? Omaha. My dad's a veterinarian. My mom teaches piano. Very normal, very boring childhood. How'd you end up in Atlanta? Med school at Emory. Fell in love with the city. Or maybe just too lazy to leave. He smiled. What about you? Atlanta native? Born and raised in Marietta. Never left. Never really wanted to. I paused. Until now, I guess. Now I'm thinking about all the places I haven't seen. Where would you go? If you could go anywhere? Japan. I've always wanted to see the cherry blossoms in Kyoto. Then we'll go. After you're in remission. We'll go to Japan. Alexander, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. Emma. I'm not doing this out of obligation. I'm doing this because. He trailed off, looking frustrated with himself. I don't know how to explain it without sounding like a complete lunatic. Try. He set down his fork and turned to face me fully. That night at the gala. When I saw you with those kids, there was this moment where one little boy asked you if the chemo hurt, and you got down on his level and told him the truth. You said yes, it hurts, but there are also good days where you get to eat ice cream and watch cartoons and laugh with people you love. And he asked if he was going to die, and you said, not today. Today you're going to beat me at checkers. My breath caught. You heard that? I was standing right behind you. Emma. I watched you play 11 games of checkers with that kid. You let him win 7 of them. And when his mom came to get him, he hugged you and said, "You're my favorite penguin." And you cried. Just a little. When you thought no one was looking, he died, I whispered. 3 weeks later. Relapse. I got the email from the volunteer coordinator. I know. I signed the notice. Alexander's voice was rough. Emma, I think about that night all the time. The way you gave that kid hope, how you made his mom smile for the first time in probably months, and I thought, that's who I want to be. That's the kind of person I want to surround myself with. But I'm the CEO. I can't just walk up to volunteers and ask them on dates. That's a harassment lawsuit waiting to happen. So you kept my picture instead. Like a creepy stalker. Yes, It's not creepy if it leads to a life-saving marriage. Is that going to be our story? How'd you meet? Oh. He stalked me for 14 months and then married me when I got cancer. We both laughed. And it felt good. Normal. Like maybe this insane arrangement might actually work. Alexander showed me around the house after dinner. It was beautiful, modern, but warm, with high ceilings and huge windows that let in the late afternoon sun. My room was on the second floor, across the hall from his. Guest bathroom's there, he said, pointing. Towels in the closet. I already cleared space in the medicine cabinet for you. Oh, and there's a bathtub with jets. My sister swears by it for stress relief. You have a sister? 2, younger, both married with kids. They're going to lose their minds when they find out about this. Are you going to tell them? Eventually. They live in Nebraska, so we've got some time. He leaned against the doorframe. Emma, I know this is all happening really fast. If you need space, if you need time, just tell me. This is your home now, too. You can lock your door. You can tell me to back off. Whatever you need. What do you need? I asked. He looked surprised by the question. What do you mean? You're giving up your privacy, your house, your insurance, your bone marrow. What do you get out of this? For a long moment, he just looked at me. Then, quietly, a chance. A chance at what? I'll tell you when I figure it out. That first night in Alexander's house, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of an unfamiliar place. Down the hall, I could hear soft music playing that same cellist, I thought. Yo, yo, ma. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. How was the wedding night? I typed back. We're in separate rooms. This is a business arrangement, remember? Sure. That's why you're texting me at midnight instead of sleeping. I'm texting you because I'm freaking out. About the cancer or the marriage? Both. Neither. I don't know. You made the right choice. I can feel it. You can feel it? What are you psychic now? I'm your sister. Close enough. I smiled at my phone. Then another text came through. This one from an unknown number. Emma, it's Alexander. Just wanted to make sure you have my number. Also, there's leftover ice cream in the freezer if you can't sleep. Mint chocolate chip. I saw it was your favorite on your Facebook profile, which I definitely didn't creep on. Sweet dreams. I lay there for a full minute, something warm blooming in my chest. Then I got up and went downstairs. Alexander was in the living room, sitting on the couch with his laptop, wearing reading glasses I hadn't seen before. He looked up when I appeared. Couldn't sleep? He asked. You stalked my Facebook for my favorite ice cream flavor. Technically, I researched your Facebook for medical history. The ice cream was a bonus discovery. That's either really sweet or really creepy. Can it be both? I sat down next to him, not too close, but close enough. What are you working on? Your treatment protocol. I'm consulting with some colleagues about the best approach. Doctor, Reeves wants to start aggressive chemo immediately, but I'm thinking we should do a lighter round first to get your counts stabilized before the transplant. He glanced at me. Unless you don't want me involved in your care, I can step back. Be just the donor. No. I want you involved. You clearly care about this. I care about you. The words were simple, but they landed with weight. I met his eyes. You don't know me, I said softly. I'm trying to, if you'll let me. Okay. Teach me about cello music. I'll teach you about trashy reality TV. We'll figure out the rest. His smile was sunrise, slow, and devastating. Deal. So that's how we spent our wedding night, sitting on his couch, sharing a pint of mint chocolate chip ice cream, while he explained the difference between Bach and Beethoven, and I made him watch an episode of The Bachelor. These people are insane, he declared around midnight. That's the point. She's clearly going to pick the guy with the weird hair. She picks the finance bro who cheats on her in tabloids 6 months later. How do you know that? Alexander, this show aired 3 years ago. I've seen it before. I'm emotionally preparing you for the betrayal. Why would you show me something you know will end badly? Because sometimes the journey matters more than the destination. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and something shifted in his expression. Yeah, he said quietly. I'm starting to understand that. The next week was a blur of appointments, oncology consults, insurance processing, pre-transplant testing. Alexander was there for every single one, asking questions, taking notes, squeezing my hand when the needle went in. My mom came to the second appointment, took one look at Alexander holding my hand, and softened visibly. "You really care about her," she said afterward. "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Because if you're lying, I still have those nursing skills." "I remember, Mrs. Chen, believe me." Treatment started on a Thursday. The chemo was brutal. I spent 2 days throwing up, another 3 days too weak to get out of bed. Alexander worked from home, checking on me every hour, bringing ginger ale and crackers, sitting with me when the nausea was too bad to be alone. "You don't have to do this," I told him on day 5, when I looked like death and smelled worse. "I know. I want to." "Why?" "Because you matter to me. I'm your charity case. You're my wife. On paper. Emma." He sat on the edge of my bed, careful not to jostle me. "Do you want me to leave? Honestly?" "No," I admitted. "I just don't understand why you're staying. Because when I'm with you, I feel like the person I've always wanted to be." Does that make sense? It did. It really did. On day 8, I was strong enough to shower by myself. On day 10, I managed to eat real food. On day 12, we sat on the back patio watching the sunset, and I realized I hadn't thought about Marcus in over a week. "Penny, for your thoughts," Alexander said. "I was just thinking that I should probably be more upset about my ex-fiancé leaving me." "Should you? Normal people would be devastated. Normal people don't marry strangers for health insurance." He handed me a glass of lemonade. "Emma, do you miss him?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I miss who I thought he was. But the real Marcus? The one who left when things got hard? I don't miss him at all. Good. He didn't deserve you. You say that like you know what I deserve. I'm starting to. 3 weeks in, we established a routine. Coffee together in the morning. Alexander would leave for the hospital by 7. I'd rest, read, occasionally work remotely when I felt strong enough. He'd come home around 6 with takeout, always something new, always asking what I liked. We'd eat together, watch TV, talk. About everything. His childhood in Nebraska, my complicated relationship with my sister, his failed engagement 10 years ago to a woman who wanted him to quit medicine, my grandmother's death from cancer when I was 16. "Is that why you volunteered at the gala?" he asked one night. "Because of your grandmother?" "Yeah. She died at Emory. In the children's wing, actually. Wrong floor, but they didn't have space upstairs. I was there when she passed. There was this little boy in the next bed who kept crying because he was scared, and my grandmother, even on her deathbed, started singing to him, some old Chinese lullaby. He fell asleep. Alexander's hand found mine. "She sounds incredible." She was. "She used to tell me that life gives us pain so we know what kindness looks like when it arrives." I looked at him. "I think about that a lot now. Do I look like kindness to you?" "You look like a second chance." That night, I didn't go to my room. We fell asleep on the couch, my head on his shoulder, his arm around me, the TV playing softly in the background. When I woke up at 3 a.m., he was carrying me to bed, my bed. He tucked me in carefully, like I was something precious. "Alexander?" I mumbled, half asleep. "Yeah? Stay?" He hesitated for just a second. Then, "Okay." He lay down on top of the covers, a safe distance away. But in the morning, we'd somehow migrated together, his arm around my waist, my hand on his chest. Neither of us mentioned it. Week 4, my counts stabilized. Dr. Reeves scheduled the transplant for the following Monday. Alexander took the whole week off work, something his assistant told me he'd never done before. "You didn't have to do that," I said. "Yes, I did." "Emma, I'm going under too. We'll recover together." The transplant was surprisingly anticlimactic. They put us in adjacent rooms, harvested his marrow, and transferred it to me. The whole thing took 6 hours. When it was done, Alexander insisted on coming to my room. "You should be resting," I protested. "So should you." Yet here we are. He settled into the chair next to my bed, wincing slightly. "How do you feel?" "Like I got hit by a truck." "You?" "Like I got backed over by the same truck. We match." Literally. Literally. We stayed in the hospital for 5 days. Alexander's sister Julia flew in on day 3, took one look at us, and started crying. "Alexander, You married her? You actually married her? Jules, this is the most romantic thing I've ever heard. You've been pining over this woman for over a year, and then you married her to save her life? This is literally a movie. It's not romantic. It's practical. Julia looked at me. Emma, is my brother this oblivious all the time? I'm starting to think so. He's in love with you. You know that, right? Julia! Alexander's face turned red. Can you not? Can I not what? Tell the truth? Alexander, you've been different since you met her. Happier, lighter. You smile now. You didn't smile before. I smiled before. At quarterly reports, maybe. But not like this. Not real smiles. She left us to visit the cafeteria, and the room filled with awkward silence. Finally, I said, is she always like that? Unfortunately, yes. I apologize for my sister's complete lack of boundaries. She's not wrong, though. He looked at me sharply. What? You do smile more now, I've noticed. Emma, I smile more too. When I'm with you. That's the chemo. It does weird things to your brain. Alexander. I reached out and took his hand. What are we doing? What do you mean? This. Us. We're supposed to be pretending, but it doesn't feel like pretending anymore. He was quiet for a long time. Then, do you want it to be pretending? No. Good. Because I'm terrible at it, apparently. Emma, I know we started this as an arrangement. I know it's too soon, and you're dealing with too much, and I should probably shut up and let you recover. But my sister's right. I do smile more with you. I feel more with you, and I don't want to go back to who I was before you. What are you saying? I'm saying that I'd like this to be real. If you want that. No pressure. We can keep the separate rooms. We can keep the platonic arrangement. I'll be whatever you need me to be. But if you want more, I'm here. I've been here since the night I saw you in that penguin costume. I started laughing. I couldn't help it. That's not the reaction I was hoping for, he said dryly. I'm sorry. It's just a penguin costume. Of all things. You made it work. I really didn't. Emma, can you be serious for a second? I squeezed his hand. Yes, I want this to be real too. I don't know what that looks like yet, and I'm terrified I'm going to mess it up. But he kissed me. Right there in the hospital room, with both of us recovering from surgery and probably breaking several medical protocols, he kissed me. And this time it wasn't perfunctory or careful. It was desperate and honest and full of all the things we hadn't said yet. When we broke apart, I whispered, so that's a yes? That's a yes. To all of it. Emma, I want to be your husband for real. Not because of insurance or transplants or practical reasons, because I can't imagine my life without you in it anymore. We've only known each other a month. I know. Completely insane. But you're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Okay then. Okay? Let's be married for real. Let's see where this goes. His smile was everything. Recovery took 3 months. 3 months of careful monitoring. Of anti-rejection drugs. Of small victories and scary setbacks. But through all of it, Alexander was there. Not as my doctor, not as my donor, but as my husband. My real husband. We moved into his room, our room, on week 8. We went on our first real date on week 10, dinner and a movie, incredibly normal. We said I love you on week 12, him first, nervous and stuttering, me second, sure and clear. On month 4, Dr. Reeves declared me in remission. I cried. Alexander cried. My mom cried and threatened Dr. Reeves with bodily harm if he was lying. I'm not lying. Mrs. Chen, please put down the scalpel. That night, Alexander and I lay in bed, my head on his chest, his fingers drawing patterns on my shoulder. We should do it again, he said. Do what again? Get married. For real this time, with our families and friends and a cake and all the things we skipped the first time. Alexander, we're already married. I know. But I want to marry you again. The right way, where you wear a dress and I wear a suit and we say vows that actually mean something. What would your vows be? He thought for a moment. I'd promise to always be your match. In every way. I'd promise to hold your hand through every treatment, every setback, every victory. I'd promise to bring you mint chocolate chip ice cream at midnight and watch trashy TV with you even though I don't understand it. I'd promised to love you not despite your penguin costume, but because of it. I was crying again. Happy tears this time. What would yours be? He asked softly. I'd promised to smile more. To let you see my weird cereal for dinner habits. To teach you chopsticks even though you'll probably never get it. To go to Japan with you and see the cherry blossoms. To build a life with you that's messy and imperfect and absolutely real. I like those vows. Me too. 6 months after our City Hall wedding, we got married again. This time at a small venue in Marietta, with our families and friends watching. Sarah was my maid of honor, crying through the whole thing. Julia was Alexander's best man. I'm the reason you're together. I called you out. My mom walked me down the aisle. She squeezed my hand and whispered, Your grandmother would have loved him. I know, Mama. This time, Alexander wore a suit. I wore a dress simple, cream-colored, perfect. This time, we wrote our own vows. This time, the kiss wasn't awkward or careful. It was us messy and imperfect and absolutely real. At the reception, Marcus showed up. I saw him first, standing at the edge of the venue, looking lost and regretful. Alexander followed my gaze and tensed. Do you want me to handle this? He asked quietly. No. I will. I walked over to Marcus. He looked terrible, tired, older somehow, diminished. Emma, he said. I'm sorry. I know I have no right to be here. I needed to see you. To explain. There's nothing to explain, Marcus. You made your choice. I made mine. I was scared. The cancer, the money, all of it, I couldn't handle it. I know. But Alexander could. And he did. Not because he had to, because he wanted to. Are you happy? Marcus asked. And he actually sounded like he cared. I looked back at Alexander, who was watching us with concern but giving me space. I looked at my family, laughing and dancing. At Julia, who was trying to teach my dad some complicated dance move. At Sarah and her husband, who were stealing cake from the dessert table. Yeah, I said, I really am. I hope you find that someday too, Marcus. But not with me. Never with me again. He nodded and left quietly. I didn't watch him go. When I got back to Alexander, he pulled me into his arms. You okay? Perfect. Dance with me? I should warn you, I'm a terrible dancer. Good. Me too. We'll be terrible together. We danced awkwardly, offbeat, laughing the whole time. And as the sun set over the venue, painting everything gold and orange and perfect, I thought about my grandmother's words. Life gives us pain so we know what kindness looks like when it arrives. And kindness looked like Alexander Hunt. My match. My husband. My second chance at everything. What are you thinking about? He asked, his forehead resting against mine. Cherry blossoms in Kyoto. We'll go next spring, after your next scan. Promise? I promise. Emma? Yeah? Thank you. For what? For saying yes. In that City Hall office. For taking a chance on a stranger who kept your photo for too long and proposed something completely insane. Alexander, I need to tell you something. He pulled back slightly, concerned. What? That wasn't insane. That was the sanest thing I've ever done. You saved my life. But more than that, you taught me what it means to be chosen. Not just settled for. Not just convenient, but chosen. Every single day. Emma, I love you. Not because you're my donor or my insurance provider or any practical reason. I love you because you're you. Because you taught yourself to like Taylor Swift for me. Because you let me teach you about reality TV even though you think it's stupid. Because you smile more now. Because you make me smile more. He kissed me, right there on the dance floor, with everyone watching and cameras flashing and my mother definitely crying again. When we finally broke apart, he whispered, For the record, I didn't teach myself to like Taylor Swift. What? I already liked Taylor Swift. I was just too embarrassed to admit it to my CEO colleagues. I burst out laughing. You're ridiculous. I'm your ridiculous. Yes. You absolutely are. Later that night, after the reception ended and we'd said goodbye to everyone, Alexander and I sat on the back patio of our house, our home, watching the stars come out. Julia was right, I said. About what? This is literally a movie. Does that make me the romantic lead? It makes you the guy who showed up. That's better than any romantic lead. He pulled me closer, and we sat in comfortable silence, listening to the night sounds of suburban Atlanta crickets and distant traffic and someone's dog barking. "Emma?" Alexander said eventually. "Yeah? I'm glad you got sick." I pulled back to look at him, shocked. "What?" "I know how that sounds. And I would never wish cancer on anyone, especially you. But if you hadn't gotten sick, we wouldn't be here. You'd have married Marcus. I'd still be alone in this house, looking at your photo and wondering what if." He touched my face gently. "So I'm not glad you had to suffer, but I'm glad it brought you to me." That's the most twisted romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. Too honest? No. Exactly honest enough. I kissed him softly. "I'm glad too. Not about the cancer, but about finding you. About cherry blossoms we haven't seen yet, and terrible dancing, and a future I almost didn't have." Speaking of that future, Alexander said, suddenly nervous. "I have something for you." He pulled out a small box from his pocket, not a ring box, something else. When I opened it, I found a photo. The photo. Me in the penguin costume, laughing at something off camera. "You kept it," I whispered. "Of course I kept it. Emma, this picture has been on my desk for 14 months. My colleagues thought I was weird. Julia teased me relentlessly. But I couldn't get rid of it, because every time I looked at it, I saw the person I wanted to become. Kind, genuine, brave enough to wear a penguin costume for sick kids. Alexander, I'm not done." "Turn it over." I flipped the photo. On the back, in his handwriting, "Emma Chen, the penguin girl. Someday, somehow, I'll find the courage to talk to her. The 15th of October, 2024. And then, in newer ink, I found the courage. And she said yes. She keeps saying yes. The 9th of January, 2026. I was crying again. "You're going to make me ruin my makeup." "It's our wedding night. You're allowed to ruin your makeup." "Our second wedding night, you mean?" "Right. Our second wedding night. Which is much better than our first one. Hey, our first wedding night was great. We had ice cream and The Bachelor. And I learned that love is a lie and everyone betrays everyone. See? Educational. We stayed on the patio until after midnight, talking and laughing and planning our life together. Japan in the spring. Maybe kids someday, if my body could handle it. A dog, definitely. Alexander had always wanted a dog, but his schedule had never allowed it. "We should name it Penguin," I said. "We're not naming our dog Penguin." "Why not?" "It's how we met. Emma, we met because you got cancer and I stalked you on the bone marrow registry. Let's tell people the penguin story instead. It's cuter. It's definitely cuter." Eventually, we went inside. Upstairs, to our room, our life. Our happily ever after that started with a diagnosis and a desperate proposal and a city hall ceremony that took 12 minutes. As I fell asleep that night, Alexander's arms around me, I thought about all the things that had to go wrong for everything to go right. Marcus had to leave. I had to get sick. Alexander had to be in the registry. The computer had to flag the match. 1,000 tiny choices and coincidences that led to this moment. "Thank you," I whispered into the darkness. "For what?" Alexander mumbled, half asleep. "For pretending to be my groom." I wasn't pretending. I know. That's why I'm thanking you. His arms tightened around me. "Emma? Yeah? I love you. I love you too." And somewhere in the universe, I like to think my grandmother was smiling. Because I finally understood what she meant all those years ago. Life gives us pain so we know what kindness looks like when it arrives. And kindness arrived in an ill-fitting suit at a city hall ceremony, offering me his bone marrow and his future and his heart. All I had to do was say yes.